Alright everyone, welcome back to my reloading bench. It's late June here in Alaska, and you'd think since it really doesn't get dark here this time of year that there'd be all kinds of time for shooting and playing outside. And unfortunately that really isn't the case. This is the busy time of year where we're preparing for the end of summer and the coming of winter again. We have a short window of good weather to get everything done, and of course the winters are very long here. Fall is sweet but short, and we're busy hunting then, so we got to cram in as much activity in the summer as we can, and that's why I haven't been putting out nearly as many videos now as I do in winter and spring. But with the summer comes the salmon, and with the salmon comes brown bears all over the place. And I've had a lot of people ask me over the years what I carry for bear protection. For brown bears around here, or up north, inland, grizzlies. They're all pretty nasty, they can all be pretty aggressive, and you really don't want to go messing around in the bush out here unarmed. A lot of people carry bear spray, and I suppose that's saved some lives. I know it can be effective, but there's a lot of variables with it. Even with a good bear spray, you have a range of maybe 10 yards at the very most, and if it's windy, it's not going to be nearly as effective. And from what I've heard also, not from personal experience, but a sow with cubs charging at you, she's enraged, bear spray is much less effective on a bear like that. Once they're committed to tearing you up, it's probably not going to stop them. Much more effective on juvenile bears who are curious and just want to maul you a little bit and taste you and see if you're good to eat. Works pretty well on those, but not so much with the sows and cubs, or really aggressive bears who are just going to charge in and slap you around. I much prefer having some heavy iron on my hip. Now, a handgun is a poor substitute for a rifle, in my opinion. Much better than nothing, in my opinion, better than bear spray. But, really, I love to have a large caliber Magnum rifle in my hands, with one in the chamber, ready to flip the safety off and go to work if need be. But that's not always practical. So what handgun do I carry? The answer to that depends. If I'm hunting, if I'm carrying big caliber Magnum rifle ready to go, then I reach for the Glock 20. Much lighter. Glock 20 with 15 rounds, weighs about 2.5 pounds. So very light. Even though it's a big package, it's very light. Very quick to deploy, reasonably accurate, very reliable. I mean, it's definitely a combat-worthy pistol. I've had thousands of rounds through my Glock 20, and never a malfunction. Never a single malfunction out of thousands of rounds. So, some people love Glocks, some people hate them. To me, I don't care. It's a good pistol. Doesn't feel that great in the hand to me, but I can shoot it pretty accurately, and it's very effective. Generally, I carry it in a Kenai chest rig. This one is from Gunfighters Inc. Straps around your chest tightly. Once you get used to it, you really forget it's on, unless you're doing a lot of bending over. I noticed I do a lot of prospecting. If you've seen any of my prospecting videos, I noticed that if I'm doing a lot of panning and bending over, this kind of tips and kind of cuts into your rib a little bit, pokes in. Not terribly comfortable, but very comfortable for hiking, walking around. So when I'm carrying a rifle, this is my backup. Or, a casual hike, something close by, I'm not going into a bear-infested area, I'll slap this on. It's easy, it's light. Good package, I like it. And I generally carry Underwood extreme penetrators in it with the stock Glock barrel. I do have a 6-inch KKM barrel that can handle the hard cast stuff. But the standard Glock barrel works good, and you can shoot a few hard casts through it without a problem. Now, if I'm not carrying a rifle, if a handgun is going to be my primary bear defense weapon, I'll probably leave the Glock at home and I'll carry Old Faithful here, which is my Ruger Super Redhawk Toklat in 454 Casull. Ruger recently discontinued this version of the Super Redhawk, the Toklat. The Toklat, the name comes from a river not too far from Mount McKinley, but a very large breed of inland grizzlies around there that are known for being aggressive, and they're really large. I mean, for an inland grizzly, they're kind of approaching brown bear size, and they're kind of notorious for being nasty. So this revolver being named after the Toklat, it's pretty cool, I think. It's a good name. The Toklat is kind of the in-between size Super Redhawk. You have the Super Redhawk Alaskan, which basically, if you took off this part of the barrel and made it a snubby, that's the Alaskan. And there's a lot more of those floating around than the Toklat. And then, of course, Super Redhawks, they have lots of longer barreled versions, 8-inch, I think even a 10-inch. And you know, for a hunting revolver, that'd be outstanding. You'd get maximum velocity with that long barrel, long sight radius, or, you know, they're milled for the Ruger scope mounts. So a long one like that for handgun hunting, throw a scope on it, it'd be outstanding. But a revolver with an 8 or 10-inch barrel, not really practical for bear defense. And I kind of see the same thing with the Smith & Wesson X frames, 500 Smith & Wesson 460s. A lot of them, you know, they have a long barrel on them and helps with recoil, get maximum velocity, great hunting revolver, but it's just too unwieldy. And you know, if you have to whip it out of the holster fast, all that barrel can get in the way. And I'm sure you'll get good at it if you practice a lot, but it's always going to be there. It's always going to take a split second longer to deploy a long barreled revolver like that. Now the Shorty, the Alaskan, comes in 44 mag, 454 Casull, and in a 44 mag I kind of get it, but you don't really need a Super Redhawk to handle 44 Magnum. It's kind of overkill. It's more weight than would be necessary. And with the 454 Casull, with that very short barrel like that, you're sacrificing a lot of velocity. Now I haven't owned one, but did a ton of research on them. Know lots of people who own them. Great revolver and very quick to deploy. Snatch it out of the holster, short barrel, there's nothing snagging up. It's very quick. But what you're sacrificing in velocity with that short barrel kind of negates having a 454 Casull, in my opinion. It kind of bumps it down closer to the range of a 44 Magnum. So what's the point? I know when you shoot them, you look at video of it or photos, they blow a massive fireball out the end. You have a ton of unburned powder coming out the barrel, blowing a big fireball, and losing a lot of velocity. So for me, the intermediate barrel length was the answer to that. You have enough barrel to get a much more complete burn with your powder. You get good velocity, although not nearly as much as with a long barrel, but very good velocity. And you can take pretty good advantage of that 454 Casull casing. So a lot of times I'll carry it in a chest rig, and this one's from Diamond D Custom Leather out of Wasilla, Alaska. They do wonderful work, great holster. It really helps take the weight off of the revolver off your body. If you're carrying it on your hip, you tend to feel the weight quite a bit more. This helps with that, spreads it over your shoulder. Hold 6 rounds here for backup. But you know what I've noticed is, in order to get your revolver to snap out of this quickly the way you want it to, you have to have the straps cinched down pretty tight around your midsection, and it's right around your rib cage. And if you're riding around on a four-wheeler or just walking around, it's fine. But if you're doing something where you're really exerting yourself, if you're, you know, climbing a mountain, stuff like that, it gets annoying very fast to have that strap cinched up tight around your rib cage. It starts restricting your breathing and really bothering you. And I catch myself loosening that strap up to be more comfortable, And then when that strap is loose and you go to pull your revolver out, you get some tug on the holster. Whereas when it's strapped up tight, it just snaps out. So great holster, I love it, but there's pluses and minuses, like with any holster. I also have a nice hip holster from Ruger. Really nice leather. I mean, the quality is just about the same as that Diamond D Custom with a thumb brake, so pretty traditional hip holster. But the thing I don't like about this, and I'll often throw this on with a good pistol belt and a pair of suspenders, you don't have to worry about it pulling your pants down. But with a holster like this, thumb brake's great, really easy to snap off. But I really like a holster that covers the trigger. It should cover the whole trigger guard like the Diamond D does. You don't have to worry about catching anything in there. So with the thumb brake on, even if you were to catch a branch or something on the trigger, it won't pull the hammer back. So it's pretty safe. And you know, the double action on this revolver is pretty stiff to begin with. Now, you know, things can happen. You get that thumb brake off and you know, something gets caught in there. Something weird could happen. I'd just rather see that completely covered. But it isn't. Nice holder with a flaw, like every holster. Anybody who's into handguns, you know, eventually you'll end up with a whole pile or a whole tub full of holsters, and all of them have pluses and minuses. I don't think the perfect holster exists, and that's why people keep buying holsters, looking for just the perfect holster. That's why so many people get into designing and building them too. They're trying to build a better mousetrap, build a better holster. So, by the way, the Toklat has a 5.5 inch barrel, in case you're curious. The specs are all out there if you want more information on it. I won't get too far in detail on that. Now, for just plinking around, having fun shooting, I like to shoot what I call cream puff loads, cupcake loads. I like to use Trail Boss. I've talked about this in other videos. Wonderful powder for making really low recoil plinker loads. With a 250 grain cast lead bullet. I shoot around 850, 900 feet per second. So very low velocity, super low recoil, fun to shoot, and pretty inexpensive, you know, cheap cast lead bullets with no gas check. They don't cost a whole lot. For something a little snappier, but still pretty mild and a really economical round to load, I like Hodgdon's Tight Group. Tight Group powder is a very fast burning powder. Just a tiny charge is all it takes to in a 454 casing to get the desired results. I usually load to a velocity around 1200 feet per second with the 250 grain bullet. So still really low, very low manageable recoil, but just enough snap to let you know you're shooting a real gun. Definitely not a cupcake load, but very manageable, really fun to shoot. Now when I get into the Magnum loads, which I have the most fun with, the two powders that really shine for me are both Hodgdon's, H110 and Hodgdon's Lil Gun. Lil Gun, I'm not a shotgun loader. Love shotguns, I just don't load for them. And I know a lot of people use Lil Gun for loading shotguns, but it works great in big bore revolvers. H110 works great too. I've gotten much higher velocity with Lil Gun, better results overall. But, you know, there's a little controversy about Lil Gun. Some of you might have heard it if you're reloaders, that maybe it's corrosive or some characteristic to it can actually cause some erosion around your forcing cone and the front of your cylinder. That shooting really hot loads with that too much can prematurely wear out your revolver. So not good there. And it seems to be that there is some real evidence of that, at least in the past. Now other people have said that Hodgdon has kind of reformulated Lil Gun over the years and it's no longer a concern. But it's still a concern for me. I mean, I want this revolver to last a lifetime, like it should. I mean, the thing's built like a freaking tank. There's no reason I shouldn't be able to enjoy it for many years and then have my children enjoy it afterwards. So I tend to load the big bear thumper loads with wheel gun because best velocity, overall best performance. But for most of my practicing Magnum loads, I use Hodgdon's H110. And I get great results. I could just run that and never worry about the wheel gun. It'd be fine. But man, there's something about getting an extra 100, 150 feet per second from a comparable charge. And also, I tend to get a little bit better accuracy with the wheel gun. So keep this around. I shoot it. I just make sure I clean the revolver really good afterwards and do most of my Magnum shooting with H110, which seems to be a little bit cleaner. So for my bear thumper, I've been running 235 grain cast performance gas check bullets. I think I loaded them all up. This is what I ran for a long time with a pretty hot charge of wheel gun or H110. You run them both in this. But wheel gun worked better with these. And got pretty good velocity, 335 grain bullet. So it's a big old chunk of lead, a little flat point. Very effective. And you'll see this bullet commercially available in a loading from Grizzly. Grizzly Ammo Company has a pretty hot load with this in it. And I pretty much duplicated that load with the same bullet, and I got there with wheel gun to get that same performance. And you know, instead of $2 a round or $2.50 or whatever it is, I don't even remember. I only bought one box of that stuff. It was so freaking expensive, you know, it just kills me. That's why I hand load. So instead of $2.50 a round or whatever, I got maybe 60 cents or something. So still not super cheap to shoot, but comparatively very cheap to shoot. Shot these for a long time, carried them, I like them, but I really wanted to go heavier, and this would be fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm always looking for the next greatest thing, I suppose. So I wanted to go push up closer to the 400 grain mark on bullets. And the heaviest bullets, I don't cast my own bullets, I'll probably get into it at some point, but I like loading and shooting more than I think I would casting. Seems just a little bit too much time involved, and you know, I'll probably end up doing it at some point. But for now, I just buy my bullets pre-cast. Cast Performance Bullet Company does a great job. So these are their 395 grain gas check. Very large me-plat. Big old bullet. 395 grains, and that's the biggest bullet in this 452 caliber that I can find around here. I think there's some that are 400, 405, but this is about almost 400 grains, so this is about it to load in the 454 Casull. And I'll tell you, it's a chunk of lead. It's a lot bigger than that 335 grain. For a long time, I chased velocity, and with the 335s, I went kind of nuclear on them when I was chasing that factory hot charge. I actually reached that and kept working up. You know, the Super Redhawk is very much overbuilt. There's a lot of loads out there that probably aren't safe to shoot in anything except, you know, in a double action revolver. You'd want to use this or nothing because it's just very strong. They're known for being very durable. So loading manuals, the loading data tends to be really mild when you're using it in a Super Redhawk. So I've gone way over book with those 335 grainers, looking for pressure signs, and kept going and getting more velocity and more velocity, and still not getting any pressure signs. I mean, you go to eject your cases, they snap right out, no sticky cases, and but what I've seen is that when you start getting that real high velocity, there's always a cost, and the cost with that is recoil. You start getting the big velocity, the revolver can handle it, I can handle it. I mean, it's fun, it's a blast to shoot those big whammers, but Getting multiple shots on target with loads like that, forget it. It's impossible. The recoil is so stout. You're getting a ton of muzzle flip. It takes a long time to get back on target, and it's not necessary. For bear protection, bear defense, I've gotten away from the velocity game. All the research I've done over the years leads me to believe that you don't have to push them really fast. What you want to get for penetration with a bullet like this, you want to go as heavy as possible for caliber, and you want to get it up to between 1100 feet per second and 1300 feet per second. That's all you need. Really, even 1050, something like that, would be fine. Let's call it between 11 and 1200 feet per second. Big heavy bullet moving about that fast penetrates like crazy. You know, there's an old saying, bullets that are going fast stop fast. There's some truth to that. I've also heard of really hard cast bullets. You push them super fast, they hit something and they can actually shatter. They're going so fast they break, and maybe that's a defect in the casting. They're too hard, they're too brittle. I haven't seen that personally, even when I was pushing them really fast, but apparently it's a possibility. It can happen, and you don't need all that velocity. What you want to achieve for a bear defense handgun is you want to pull off headshots. Let's face it, even a big revolver like this, body shots on a charging bear are not going to stop that bear. Even with a big rifle, it's just probably not going to stop the bear. When they're amped up, they're fired up, it takes a lot to kill them. The only way you're going to stop a charge like that is with a central nervous system hit. You got to hit them in the brain or in the spine. What it takes to get that is penetration. Not that it takes a ton to get through a bear's head, but the bear's brain itself, you're talking about a very small target that's bobbing and weaving and charging at you at 35 miles an hour. So I don't care how good you are, if you pull off a headshot on a charging bear, somebody's looking out for you. So yeah, unfortunately, the chances are you're going to miss that brain shot. Next best thing, if he's head on with you, you got a good chance, even if you miss the brain, connecting with the spine somewhere. Hopefully as close to the head as possible, and shut him down, take him out, stop the charge. Miss the spine, at the very least you want to get maximum penetration, go as far into the bear as possible, and with really heavy bullet you'll get good penetration, maybe from one end of the bear and out the other. Major organ hits, like I said, you know, it's not going to stop the charge, and they can live a long time, even shot right through the heart and lungs, and kill you, do horrible damage. But it gives you a chance. Maybe that bear will maul you for a little bit, take a break, and while he's taking a break and sniffing around and thinking about whether or not he's going to eat you, he's bleeding out, and maybe he'll stop. So the most penetration possible. Hopefully a brain, spine hit. If not, just as much penetration as you can possibly manage. So my recipe for that, super heavy bullet going at moderate velocity. You don't need all that velocity. All the research I've seen, and I've really come to believe it, that a really heavy bullet with a wide me-plat flat point going about 1100 feet per second penetrates like crazy. I believe that shooting this bullet out of this revolver at about 1100 feet per second will still have manageable recoil. It'll be a wallop, but I think I'll be able to get back on target and hopefully get off a second or possibly a third shot. Hopefully. Maybe I'll get lucky, first one hits him in the brain, but probably not. So I loaded up charges with the 400 grain bullet of low gun and H110. With the H110, I loaded from 20 grains to 20.5 grains in half grain increments, 3 rounds each. Not terribly worried about the numbers, standard deviation and everything. If the numbers are good, that's fantastic. But at, 10 to 25 yards bear defense range, those numbers aren't terribly important. And on the wheel gun, I loaded from 19 to 20.5 grains. Both of those max charges are a half grain over book max. So it's a hot load, no question, but it's not one of the nuclear loads like I've played around with before. So I really think the recoil will be stout but manageable, and I think that'll be a tremendously effective bear defense round. So we've got those loaded up. We're going to hit the range and see how they do. All right, guys. Well, that's about the most fun I ever had with my pants on. We saw the results with the H110. It's about what I usually see. Velocity's a little less than wheel gun. Groups were okay. You know, 2.5 inches down to an inch and a quarter, inch and a half. That would be adequate at the 20 yards we're shooting at there. But the velocities were pretty low. We were at the tightest group here. We were at only 1,032 feet per second on velocity. So a little under what I wanted. I could certainly keep pushing that H110 and get higher velocity and see if maybe the groups tighten up a little. I might do that. I might play around with it some more. But my old go-to Lil gun, it really performed well. And like I've said, I usually get a little better accuracy and quite a bit more velocity out of Lil gun for a comparable charge. So best group at 0.73, very good group. Velocity was 1120, so we have exceeded my target. I was really looking to get 1100 feet per second with accuracy without too much recoil. We did that, worked good. At 20 grain charge, almost the same size group. Really, it's the same size group, 3/4 of an inch. But we also had really good numbers to boot. And I said that doesn't matter, but I always like good numbers. So standard deviation of 6, extreme spread of 14. Granted, it's 3 shots, so take it for what it is, but it's some data. And velocity of 1145. I mean, we call it 1150 feet per second, I guess. That's damn good. 20.5, still a really good group, although it's almost twice the size of this group. We had this one off here. Now, guys, shooting from that crappy Matrix rest, which I might just smash it. I usually shoot off sandbags or Caldwell bags, and I'm used to shooting off those. It's really steady. That Matrix rest, I thought it might be a good thing, but you know how it is. You buy something cheap, you almost always regret it, and I kind of do with that. I'll play around with it some more, see if I get the hang of it. But I just couldn't get really steady on it for some reason. It was affecting my grip on the gun. And but honestly, guys, that's the best I can shoot a revolver, even with a good rest at 20 yards. I'm just not that great a shot. So 3/4 of an inch for me, that's damn good shooting. Good velocity, it's right where I want it. I could certainly push that. I mean, a lot more. I could keep going and going and going with it. The recoil was stout, but it wasn't crazy. I do believe 20 grains of Lil Gun with those 395 grain bullets, that's my new load. I'm going to load up a bunch more of them, verify that, do some shooting. You can see my point of impact is a little high here, a couple inches. That's, you know, I can adjust the sights for that. Most of my loads, it's right on at 20 yards. This is shooting kind of high. Whatever. Bear's charging, aim for his nose. You'll hit him right between the eyes, right? That's the plan anyway. So thanks for joining me. It's a ton of fun. Can't wait to load up a bunch of these and go blast the hell out of some stuff. So I've got my bear thumper load for my sidearm, for my big wheel gun. I think my next project will be bear loads for the Glock 20. As I mentioned, I have a 6-inch KKM barrel. I tend to use that when I'm hand loading for the 10mm. It's a lot easier on the brass with that tight chamber. You don't damage your brass and get that Glock bulge on it. You can go a lot hotter on your loads without being so dangerous. Most people have heard about the Glock smile you get on your brass from running hot loads. Wears out your brass quick, and you go too hot, you can have a case rupture. So the Glock chamber and barrel, the stock one, not really designed for hot loads. Almost everybody knows you're not supposed to shoot cast lead through them. You can get away with a few, but you really want to clean it out. KKM barrel, traditional rifling, extra 1.5 inches or so on the end, higher velocity. So I think I'm going to work up some bear defense loads for the 10mm. I hope you come back and join me for that. As always, if you like what we're doing here, if you enjoy these videos, please support us, like and subscribe. I'm not asking for your money. We're doing this for fun. Just click the like, click subscribe, and that's all the help I need. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.